Ministers are planning a crackdown on crime with mandatory jail sentences for repeat offenders, even for lower-level crimes. Prolific shoplifting will be targeted, as well as burglary, theft and common assault. Currently, those offences don't result in a jail sentence, but a new crime and justice bill will require judges to impose custody on those caught repeatedly. So it'll be similar to the two strikes and out policy on knife crime. The policing minister also wants forces to use more facial recognition technology to match known shoplifters to a national database. In the past year, police recorded more than 300,000 cases of shoplifting, but retailers say the real figure's closer to 8 million. And a government minister said today if there aren't enough prison places, we should just build more jails, because if people persistently break the law, he's in favour of locking people up. My goodness, where do we start with this? Part of the problem is the fact that, as we know, at the moment, hardly anybody's being caught in the first place. So saying repeat offenders, well, they don't know who they are, for a start off. Probably the clever ones, so the proper repeat offenders, are getting away with it anyway. Facial recognition, it works with some people. It doesn't work with everybody. That's not terribly helpful. And actually, if you look at all the places where they have been successful in bringing down crime, they've done, if you remember in the 90s, I think it was in New York, they had this grid system where they went sort of essentially by sections and went, right, how are we doing here? And then they actually sorted it, low-level stuff, they sorted it, and then that way they actually got a handle on the bigger stuff. Other people have done it in a different way, but to me it seems like at the moment we've pretty much got society slightly falling apart. No, people are scared to go and tackle anybody, which is what used to happen in the past. They're scared to tackle people because the police go after them, not against the people who they're tackling. And plus, you know, when you're walking around and you're seeing beggars or drug addicts shooting up, or, you know, that what people would consider to be, you know, I mean, it's considered to be low-level crime. The trouble is, it makes you feel like everything's falling to pieces, and it's a sort of shrugging thing that we go, you know, this is it, well, we can't do anything, and so therefore we don't do anything.
But the thing is, to really get a handle on low-level crime, like you said, is that we need better and more community policing. I said before in the show that there was an area in Essex, I think, and I can't remember where, but when they put more bobbies on the beat in communities, crime fell by something like 75%. That grid system that you talked about was police officers literally walking around in communities. Now, you're not going to eradicate crime, but what you can do is get a handle on the low-level stuff. There's also the other side, that people are living through a cost of living crisis. What I wouldn't want is to see people who are genuinely desperate to go to jail for stealing what they need for themselves, for their children. But
although there are food banks.
Yeah.
I mean, they could go to food banks.
But there is also people who are taking advantage. And people who are just running roughshod over people at supermarkets and cashiers and all the rest of it. But building prisons is going to take time. Funneling people through the system, through the justice system, is going to take a heck of a lot of time. And that takes policing, which the police really can't be bothered to do, and that takes the court service that aren't backed up. So until you solve the problems of police doing their actual job, God forbid, and the court service, the court service working as it should, you're not going to be able to solve all these problems.
This is another example, though, isn't it?
It's news, isn't it, when the police come out and say we're going to do this policing thing.
Yeah, we're actually going to catch people.
We're going to do our job.
We're going to actually arrest people. We're going to lock them up. We're going to, you know, do. They keep saying it, but they don't do it.
No.
I mean, I can't remember the last time I saw a headline where they said we're going to solve we're going to go to every single burglary, every single one. And at one point yesterday, I think some policemen said they want to have a policeman for every household.
What?
Which is about 20 million cops. You know, that's not going to happen.
But this makes no sense. And this is when we look at the legislation. So they're saying that they want to toughen up and they want to make sure that repeat offenders go to jail. There seems to be no continuity with all of the measures that they're putting in place. And ultimately, you've got to actually tackle the causes. So the causes are, we've got social problems, and we've also got a whole range of either low-level criminals or other criminals who are doing this because they know they're not going to get caught. What's the message when, for example, the police say, we're going to send you, the shop, a kit. So if it's below 200 quid, we're not coming out, and below 500 quid for a major shop. So that's the message. So you've got a whole range of criminals who know that they're probably not going to get caught.
They're probably topping it up as they go round, aren't they? Right, OK, well, we're 399 quid.
We're fine. We'll get away with it.
DIY Columbo kit. You know, more a thing. You know, as you kind of walk out the door to ask the person.
Little cigar in the kitchen.
My wife loved that. You know, all that sort of rubbish.
It reminds me of... I mean, there was a headline, actually, Mike, if you remember, where one police service did say we're going to attend every burglary.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, thank you very much.
Right.
How very kind.
Yeah.
You're going to actually attend the burglary.
Yeah.
The last time I looked, that's kind of like, what's the phrase?
Well, that didn't happen.
It's your job. That's right. And now we've got the government going, hey, we've got what we're going to do now. If people are caught shoplifting, we're actually going to send them to prison.
Imagine.
It's like, well, you're kind of meant to do that if you're caught shoplifting. That's the whole idea.
But even with this new plan, you're going to have to commit about 20 to 30 offences
That is always
for
the
which
case.
you've been caught.
Correct.
That's the new plan.
For which you've been caught.
Yeah.
For which
And
exactly.
Well, I
that's
believe it
14.
if I would see it, because you don't, you know, when you go to court, if you sit there, if you've been in the press gallery in courtrooms, you watch it when they read out the rap sheet afterwards, and you just think, man alive, this character's done about 44 jobs before, and he's still got a non-custodial.
I always think they should have said that at the beginning of the case. It would have been a lot shorter. Because if you thought, well, you're
much
guilty,
easier, wouldn't it?
Much.
Did you see that story though about we've covered it before? I think it was it may have been the Co-op again, but it was a certain supermarket where known shoplifters came in, and rather than just kind of just waiting and looking, people from the shop would go over and say, "Can I help you?"
Wow.
Yes, and they actually managed to cut the shoplifting because they said, "Can I help you with anything? Can I show you to anything?"
And they knew that they were...
And they knew they were being monitored without actually anybody kicking off.
But there's the consequence of shops putting in all of those automatic tills.
Yeah.
And then, 14% of these crimes being solved. That's the issue. Forget the legislation.
That's a good number.
Deal with the problem.
14%.
That
wish
would
it
be
was
hard.
14%.
I was laughing actually because the other day, I went to the supermarket today. It's the same supermarket where I think I mentioned yesterday they nabbed these two guys who'd taken off with all the steaks.
Oh wow!
And I was just thinking, wouldn't it be funny because the steaks were right at the back of the shop to try to actually make it so that they don't do it. I was just thinking, wouldn't it be great if you know how sort of sometimes you get a really quick door where you haven't actually sort of managed it on the tube, for example, and the door snaps on you and everything.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, wouldn't it be quite funny if they saw them run and they kind of went woof and then they got stopped by the door.
Yeah.
So they could T-bone the steak.
Actually, I wasn't thinking
had to be
even
said, really,
in the
didn't it?
door, but yeah.
Very good.
Do you think about that
I've got
story?
better, James.
Yes.
Do you think about that
There's
story?
much more up this sleeve.
You do, don't you?
I've
heard it about 4 times now.
Yeah, what about
I mean,
the steak?
the door is a new wrinkle to it.
Yeah, thank you. I
Thank you very
like a
much.
new wrinkle. I'll get the iron out.
Yes. Okay. Then. Anyway.